Check 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need. Get over the fear and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with podcast number 166. Today we have a scenario question, and I'm going to try my best to answer it. Before I get started, hey, I wanted to go over something with you guys that I've been wanting to go over for a couple days now, and my voice hasn't been there to talk much, so it's better today, so we're going to go over it if you don't mind. Bear with me, humor me, and if you get something from this, great. If it's wasted voice and airtime, I apologize. But I want to talk about setting some goals. We're in a lot of us will have New Year's resolutions that will last about 2 days. And a lot of those New Year's resolutions will be things that have to do with quitting something or stopping something or not doing something else. And whatever they are, I understand. I mean, we all have those things that we want to change in our life. But remember, in order to change something and adhere to change, the pain of not changing has to be outweighed by the pain of change. So we can't, if we set a New Year's resolution or goal for 2016 and it really doesn't impact us, like, I want to brush my teeth, twice more per week. Well, that's really not impacting us, okay? It's not going to be hard to do that. It's not going to make a difference in our life unless we just never brush our teeth. Then it might. Friends will like you more. But I hope you understand what I mean. I mean, when we say I want to buy a house, or I want to buy 2 houses, or I want to be 50 houses, or I want my bank account balance to be this, I want to go on a vacation, I want to plan for my kids' education, I want to buy a new vehicle, buy a new house, I want to, whatever it is, get married, whatever your goal is, it has to be pretty important and sometimes hard to do. Because I found that the ones that are the easy ones to do, we really don't care about doing. So make it a little bit troubling for you. Make the pain of not doing it hurt more than the pain of doing it. And then you'll probably succeed at it. But here's what I want you to do. You're going to find this really odd. And this is a note to yourself. It's not something I want you to share with anybody but yourself. You're going to share this note with yourself on July 1st, 2016, and again, December 31st, 2016. So here's what I want you to write down in the note. I want to have you write down between now and December 31st what your life looks like now. So describe yourself to yourself as your active life is today. Tell yourself how much money is in your bank account. Tell yourself what you do on a regular basis. Tell yourself how much you weigh, how much, all those little things that you can manipulate in life, how much things that you can change, whether you want to change them or not. I want you to write down, yes, how much is in your bank, what you drive, how many miles are on your car, what's your bank account balance, what do you eat, what do you weigh, those things that in 6 months from now, you can look back at and say, hey. And then you could also look at your goals that you're going to have. This is not a goal. This is about who you are today. And in 6 months, you can look at that little note to yourself and say, hey, I'm the same person. Same old problems, same old conditions. Or you can say, oh, I'm in worse shape. I have less money in the bank. I'm fatter, or I'm skinnier, whatever it is that is a negative to you. But you also might look at it in 6 months and say, oh, wow. Man, 6 months ago, I only had, $2 in my bank account. Now I have $4. I doubled the amount of money in my bank account. And again, you're going to look at it in July 1st, and you're going to look at it again in December 31st. I want to see if there's going to be a difference for you, and if there is a difference for you. Because sometimes we just go a year after year after year after year, and nothing changes. We want to change, but we don't even remember where we were a year ago, when it was and what we wanted. Yeah, was it last year that I wanted to, grow hair or whatever it is? Yeah, well, let's write it down. Let's tell yourself where you're at and then look at it in 6 months and in 12 months and see if you're different. Hopefully you're going to be better, and whatever better means for you. It could be better that you have more stability, that you have more ability. It could be better that those folks around you appreciate you more. It could be that you're more independent and less reliant on others around you for those things that you can't do for yourself. Whatever it is, I want you to be better. And the only way that you can determine that you have become better is if you write yourself a note on what you're doing today. And then really look at the difference. Can you pat yourself on the back and have pride that you've actually changed yourself enough to have that pride? Or have you been just getting by with your daily actions? Have you just, got up, gone to work, and gone home, gone to bed? Or you've impacted what your life is because you're the only one that's in control of it. I mean, yeah, we can have systems and rules that tell us give us guidelines that we have to stay within. But we get to choose those, within those boundaries where we want to live and how we want to live. I mean, we don't have a rule that says we can't be a billionaire. That rule is set by ourselves. We can actually be a billionaire. For those of you that don't realize you can. You can. And I know that you can because if you just Google how many people became a billionaire within the last 4 years who weren't billionaires or even millionaires 4 years ago, and start, reading about them. Find out how they did it. What did they do? Yeah, now we could take, and we could create an excuse. We could say, well, they did this because they were in tech, or they did, they got lucky, or you know what? Baloney. They did it. They got out of bed. And so I want you to write yourself this note and figure out if you got out of bed in 6 months, if you got out of bed in 12 months. If you didn't, if you just created nothing. So you created nothing. You stayed the same over the next 12 months or the next 6 months. And that's okay for you, then that's perfect. I'm going to clap and I'm going to say, fantastic, great job. If you want to stay the same, and this note to yourself reminds you that you've done what is required to stay the same, and you're perfectly comfortable with it, I'm going to applaud you and commend you and say, great job. But in 6 months and 12 months, if you go, gosh, I was hoping to be something different than I was 12 months ago or 6 months ago, then get out of bed. So this is a note to yourself. Don't share it. It's not to be shared. It's personal. We shouldn't take this action lightly. It's serious. And you're going to write down on your note those things that are important to you. Because let's face it, if it doesn't matter how much you weigh and it's not important, you're not going to put it in your note to yourself. So what goes on that note are things that are important to you, that you just may want to influence a little bit of change in, that you'd like to see some change within the next 6 months, 12 months. We're not going to write down how we're going to do it. I'm only going to write down who you are today, whatever that means to you. Second thing I want you to really, really concern yourself with and think about a lot, because I know you listen to this podcast. I'm only assuming you are since you're listening to it now. And there's probably other podcasts that are out there that you've listened to or are a regular listener for or on or of. I want you to ask yourself or confirm for yourself that you really want to be a real estate investor. That, some of us say it like it sounds good. It's romantic. It feels good to say. It seems responsible. But is it truly what we want to do? Do I get the same excitement out of becoming a real estate investor as I do maybe making Thanksgiving dinner for my family? Does it give me the same reward? Which one, if I had a choice, which one would I do? Be a real estate investor, cook a turkey, go to the gym, buy a car, whatever it is. I want you to confirm for yourself that you truly want to be a real estate investor. And if you do, let's fall forward and become one. Continue being one. Be a better one. Be the same great one. Whatever it is for you, answer the question, do you want to be a real estate investor? And it's not, Mike, yes, it is. I do. I really do. What does that mean for you? What does yes to that question mean for you? Why do you want to be a real estate investor? What does being a real estate investor do for you? Gives you more money. Well, what does that do for you? What does having more money do for you? Gets rid of my job. What does that do for you? I want you to really think about it. Because sometimes we walk around in this cloud of thinking we want to do something, but we really don't want to do it. Because if we did want to do it, we'd be doing it or more of it. But we're doing things that look like we're doing it, like we ordered business cards, we ordered some mail, we're listening to these podcasts, or whatever it is. We tell people that we're real estate investors, but are we really wanting to be a real estate investor? If you answer the question and the answer is yes, answer this question. Why? What does it mean? What does it mean to be, for you, a real estate investor? Because what it means for me and the other people that are real estate investors that you may look up to, that it means a completely different thing for them. I want to know what it means to you, but I want to know for you what it means. So again, this is for you. This is not to be shared. This is self-thought. Why? So anyway, I know it's silly. It took 10 minutes to say all that stuff, but let's get into today's scenario question. Here it is. I have a new deal. Congratulations. This new lead belongs to another investor who sounds more like a person who made a bad deal and has a tenant under a lease option agreement who is not paying rent. He's looking into booting the tenant after the holidays. He asked me to make an offer and didn't offer an estimated value. My mistake for not cutting him off there and asked for a callback when he stated he has a stated value. In researching the property, Zillow states that this is a pre-foreclosure with a foreclosure estimate of $50,700. In the case of a pre-foreclosure value, is this price what must be paid to purchase the property? Is this the estimated balance of the unpaid mortgage, or should I come up with an offer based upon CMAs as usual? Yeah, I'm going to go to the last one. Should I come up with a value based upon CMAs as usual if we are in fact going to make them an offer? And I would rather not make them an offer. I'd rather have them make us an offer that through my conversation with them, I've relayed to them in a way that causes them to own my idea. So when they present me my idea, I can agree with my own idea. The same way when they present me with my idea that is now their idea, they can agree with themselves as well. So it's just easier. But yeah, I don't really care what the foreclosed payoff amount is. It's not relevant. I mean, that's only relevant in an agreed situation. What's relevant, because in an agreed situation, you're going to say, man, they're in foreclosure for $10,000 and the house is worth $100. I think I can get it for foreclosed amount. That's greed. Because business sense tells me if it's worth $100, I can pay whatever my business model says, irrespective of what the foreclosure amount is. I'm not going to take advantage of someone because they weren't able to be responsible, or whatever it is in their life, they had a situation that caused them to not become or not be responsible for the moment. I'm not going to take advantage of that. I'm going to follow a business plan. So if I'm going to present an offer, I'm going to determine the value of the property that I can make an offer on, the maximum or the value of as is, and the maximum offer based upon that as is value. I don't really care about I don't care what Zillow says. I don't care what the pre-foreclosure payoff is. I don't care anything like that. Now, one of the questions you didn't ask me is if you were wanting to find out the pre-foreclosure sell amount, find out who the trustee is if you're in a non-judicial state, and call the trustee company up and say, hey, you have a trustee on this house and go into foreclosure, and what's the payoff amount? And then if you have a seller that's in pre-foreclosure, so they're in the NOD period or on a non-judicial state, so they have an NOD and a trustee sale, and if you're in a judicial state, you have a list of pendings, get a authorization to speak to the lender on their behalf. It's a form, and you can Google it, authorization to speak to the lender. It gives you the right to chat with the lender, gives the lender the right to chat with you about the circumstance and what the payoff is. In that form, although it won't necessarily have this information on it, you'll want to make sure you get the date of birth, the social security number, and most of the time it's just the last 4 digits that that's going to be required of you. But get some information about the seller, so when they verify, through the automated system or even over the phone, you are who you are, or you are calling about someone that they can verify all that stuff. And those are the typical things that they're going to ask for, is the last 4 digits or the whole social and or the DOB, date of birth. So get that one signed too. You want to do some research on property to determine value, but you're going to use your 7 data sets. I like getting a BPO, but we don't get the BPO until we have it under contract because I'm not going to spend the money. As far as going back to the original statement in the question is the lead belongs to another investor, we have to be comfortable that we can own the lead. We don't want to go around that investor. So whatever situation or obligation we have to that other investor, we need to fall forward. Don't try to steal their deal or their lead. If they need to stay in the loop, they need to stay in the loop. If you need to do a JV with them, you're going to do a JV. If they just want a lead fee, it's a lead fee kind of thing. Make sure you don't break any laws, especially if you're a broker or realtor. Because legally, as a broker, you can't pay a non-broker a referral fee because that violates your broker's license. And so keep that in mind. A lot of people do it. I can't tell you to do it. That would be wrong for me. I can just tell you what the law says, and the law says what it says. Same way with like assignment of contract. You got to have a broker's license if you do so many of them. And in some states, if you do one, you have to have a broker's license. So California, it's 8. If you do 8 a year or more, have a broker's license. And I passed the broker's test. So if I can pass the broker's test exam, that you guys can too. So it doesn't take much. Some states you don't. In California, the way that works, just FYI, if you want to know, if you don't have a 4-year college degree, then you have to be an agent for 2 years under a broker. And then that experience will qualify you to be able to take the broker and qualify for the broker's exam. And you would take another exam for the broker's license. But if you have a 4-year college degree, then you can go straight from that college degree into your broker's exam. And once you pass it, you're a broker. So find out what your state says. And people ask me a lot if they should have a broker's license to do business in real estate. And it really depends on if and what you're doing. Like for me personally, especially since we're now signing some contracts, yuck. But anyway, it helps. In the house buying part of it, it really doesn't help. It doesn't necessarily hinder, except I have the expense to have, board membership and my broker's license and all that kind of, my E&O insurance, those kinds of things. But they're nominal in the big picture of life. So would I stop being a broker even though I'm not a broker for hire? No. Would I become a broker if I weren't a broker to buy real estate for profit? I would probably. And it sometimes, especially if I'm doing business in my own market only, I'd absolutely want to have access to the multiple listing service and not cheat the service by getting access from a broker who's not supposed to give you access. Now, they can legally give you access as an assistant, but they can't legally give you access as just, Joe Blow that they know. They can't. It's a violation of their ethics. And we wouldn't want to ask someone to violate ethics. It's done all the time, but I don't necessarily think you should. So, yeah, it's so many advantages. So going back to the scenario, making them an offer based upon what your as-is value and your percentage of as-is value based upon your business model. Now, how do you determine as-is value? That's a big question for a lot of people. And I think the simple answer is you look at your comparable sales and determine how your comparable sales compare to your subject property. And keep in mind, your comparable sales are 5 years of age and of year built, a quarter mile if you can, 6 months of sold date, like type construction. So it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, A-frame house or block house or whatever it is. And 200 square feet up or down. So if it's a 1,500 square foot house, then 1,300 to 1,700 square feet can be a comparable sale, but a 2,000 square footer can't be. And same way with an 1,100 square footer, it shouldn't be. Because every house has bathrooms and kitchens, and those are the areas of the house that seem to be the most expensive to put in. So an 1,100 square foot house that sells for $100 a square foot and a 1,300 square foot house that sells for $90 a square foot could be selling for the same square foot value for open space, because they're in the smaller one, it costs more per square foot to put those bathrooms and kitchens in than it does on the larger one. Hope that made sense. So as we compare our properties and we have property that our comparables do match our subject. So therefore our subject is as is and ARV. If our comparables don't match our subject and are better than our subject, then our subject is as is and our comparable is ARV. Then we have to determine what our repair costs are going to be. And there's ways to do that. But once you determine that number, multiply it by 2, subtract that from your ARV. If that repair cost is less than $10,000 that you're multiplying by 2, then you're going to go up to 20, subtract that from your ARV, and that's going to be your as-is value. If your repair costs are greater than $10,000, then there's another formula that you'll want to use. And subtract that from your ARV, and that's going to be your as-is. So there's some formulas that you'll want to utilize to determine that. It's pretty simple. And again, when you start getting your BPO and then ultimately your appraisal to justify value, those folks are going to help you with some of the repair costs and the value costs. But in the beginning, we're trying to come up with the idea of, do I have a contractable property? If I put it under contract for this value, is it something that's going to stay in play? And fall forward from there. Hey, this has been fun. I hope you guys I didn't bore you too much with my first set of ideas about writing down about yourself right now and asking yourself if you truly want to be a real estate investor or not. Remember that if you want to learn real estate investing, holler back at me and we'll have a conversation about my coaching program. Fall forward into that. And until next time, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.